We're here with the Sisters of St. Joseph's. This is
Sister Mary Elizabeth.
Sister Paulette.
Sister Charlene.
and we're going to ask them a few questions. At what point in time did you guys realize you wanted to become a sister?
The first time I really thought about it?
Sure.
Okay. First time I really thought about it was when I was in second grade, right after First Communion. But I didn't think seriously about it until I was about 19, 20 years old.
And I think for me, I didn't think consciously about it. I was comfortable helping the sisters after school, and went to high school and got along well with the sisters, but it wasn't until a group, some of the girls that had been up here at our mother house came to our school, and they were starting to think seriously about it. And I thought, oh yeah. So then it just kind of was natural. So really high school.
Shirley?
Oh, did I look over here?
It doesn't matter.
I could say off and on. I went to public school until the 8th grade, and so I didn't have much exposure to the sisters. And then high school, went to Catholic high school. And one of the sisters kind of was very influential. And she had a group of us sisters kind of just very subtly challenging us to think about this. And I kind of was part of that group. And by the time it was senior year, I was more seriously thinking about it.
What part do you enjoy most about being a sister?
I think the part I enjoy best is the community living, is the getting to talk to the different sisters and being able to pray with them, and also being able to minister with them. That's the part that I really like about being a sister. So I also say is I'm not doing this by myself. I have the support of the other sisters to help me with my ministry, my I have called my vocational call, my spiritual life.
I think community and the support of other people would be one of the strongest. And you say if one person has gifts, that gift is really shared among all people. And seeing the talents that people have and sharing those together. And then prayer, too, is coming to know God through the help of other people, too. There's challenges with the group, but just having that sense of oneness and that sense of belonging and the sense of doing together, working together. Like I was a teacher and working together in a ministry with the support of other people, helping people. Those are really important to me.
I think for myself that to me there's always a challenge, and and the challenge is for me to grow personally, either in living with others, working out conflicts, in ministry, working with others, especially working with the underprivileged and the underserved. I think, what would I be if I wasn't here? And I can't even imagine it in the community. It just seems a natural fit. But I think it's challenging, and because you have the support of others going through the same struggles and challenge to meet the needs of the world, you can do it. You're not by yourself. You're not alone. It's bigger than you are, and you're part of it.
That's like a nice sense of unity. They teach us that at Rosary a lot. What is the hardest part about being a sister?
I think the part that was the hardest for me and that really hit is when I went to a funeral for a family member, and I walked in by myself and not having that support, being there, and that's where you realize it was just a little bit different, that part was hard. And yet I also know I had the support of the sisters there, but it was that one time where I really realized I'm not a part of the family. I'm not part. It's like I have a foot here and a foot there. So it's kind of straddling the two. And I think that sometimes that's hard. I think that's where I realized, I thought, oh, this is different. But then you grow into it and you kind of say, okay. It's what I realized what I sacrificed by, when I said no to having a family, and I said yes to being a part of a larger family.
I think one of the hard things is because you've got adult women living together, you rub shoulders with each other, and in rubbing shoulders you don't always agree. Everybody's got their way of doing something. It's in a family, if you're brothers and sisters, you don't always get along, you fight, but you love each other. In a marriage or in a family, they have their own home, and you have the rules, but when you're in a community, you've got several adult people who have their opinions and their ideas. So sometimes it's difficult to do the give and the take, and you don't always get your way, but you learn to cooperate with one another, and you come out stronger in a sense because you learn to work with people, and together you solve problems. If you don't solve problems, then that's a big problem. But I think it's how do adult women live together, be true to the gospel message, and then there's this nitty-gritty daily life sometimes. But you can do it with prayer, with talking, communication, and you're doing it for a greater good, and that's the whole point. It's just not here. There's a purpose, to spread the gospel and to live out the message of Jesus. That's what's important.
When you first asked the question, I thought, well, I haven't found any part of it really difficult. And then I thought, well, on a personal level, I think for me to balance my life is the biggest challenge. This is a challenge. Because you can get so involved in ministry that you forget your own needs. And it's easy to say the needs of others come first. But still, unless you're a healthy minister, taking care of yourself and meeting own needs, whatever they are, you can't bring your best self to the ministry. So by that I mean a balance, your ministry, your spiritual life, your personal life, leisure, renewing yourself. And I think I'll find that a challenge to life. Because you get drawn to the needs of others. And it is very easy to manage yourself.
What is the most memorable thing you've done while being a sister? Or the most memorable thing you've done while being a sister?
Well, for myself, for 22 years, I'm a nurse, and I was the nurse administrator of a retirement home where I helped take care of all the older sisters. And at one time, we had a great group of older sisters. And I don't know, it was a very creative time, and I used to call it a mutual admiration society because in their mind, they never retired again. It's that balance, It's come to a time in your life to slow down, to look at things differently, to help them with that anyway. It's just, but to look at what they accomplished for us, as the younger sisters at the time. Now I'm kind of in that spot myself. It was amazing, and to help them, know that and really appreciate it. It just was a wonderful time for me.
I was thinking, most memorable times, I was thinking every year we have community days. We have a week of meetings with the communities together, and then after that we celebrate jubilees, those who've been in the community, those who make final vows, those who've been in the community 25, 50, 60, 70, 75 years, etc. And that's a great time because of all the discussion and talk and being together before and recalling where we're going, what's the future for us, and then you celebrate the life of people who've been faithful for so many years. That's a great gift. And then I was trying to think an individual thing. There were two that really stick out in my mind. One was, we had, Sister Jean Bird was elected our General Superior. And very unassuming woman, beautiful. And shortly after she was elected, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And she died, I would say, a little after a year that she was in office. There was that occasion because that was such a shock to the community, and her massive resurrection was like a week and a half before Easter. And that, for the community, that was, it was like the celebration of Easter right there. And so Easter was kind of anticlimactic. That, and then a few years ago, we had one of our former Reverend Mothers, who was Sister Nancy, was giving a homily at a Jubilee celebration, and she stepped off a podium, hit back, and hit her head, and she died from that. And I think that was such a shock because she was a woman of reconciliation, and she did much with her presence, did much with healing, and she was really a spiritual mentor to the sisters, and she influenced so many people. And I think those two events stand out in my mind of the loss that we experienced, but then also realizing the gift we had in those people, in those two people, and the gift that we have as a community to be reconcilers and unifiers in a community. So those I think have made an impression on me and most of the sisters in the community.
I think she taught a rosary at one time.
Yes, she
Sister
did.
Nancy.
Sister Nancy did. Yes. For myself, I think the things I always go back because I came to become a sister because I love God and I wanted to teach children about the love of God. And so, and I became a teacher. And to those times when I'm teaching and I get that aha moment and I see it on the face of a child, it's something that's just, I said, it brings back memories. And I say, yes, I am passing on the love of God to this child, to this person that hopefully will continue to carry that on to the next person. And so those are things that I just, keep memory. I go back and think about the times because our community is so much in unity and reconciliation. And when I have helped somebody come back to God, or to help solve a type of a conflict, those are the things I said, yes, that's what I'm doing. I am bringing about the charism of this community. So those are the things that I kind of hold and cherish.
Have you ever been in love?
Yes, matter of fact, several times. Before I entered the community, I was going to get married. And actually, when, kind of study said, when we were talking about if we had children, and he said that he did not want to see the child be raised in any particular religion, that's when I realized how important my faith was. And I could not imagine raising a child not believing in anything. And I couldn't do that. And that's when I realized, my love of God was more important than the love of this person. And so, obviously I didn't, get married. And I also started to, I think that was kind of a turning point for me. And I had to say, why is this so important? And I started to get more into why is the church important? And then, of course, it led me to being a sister of St. Joseph. So the answer is yes, I have been in love.
I think before I entered, I didn't seriously look at that. But after I'd been in the community and I went back to school, yes, I fell in love with somebody. And that was a struggle because when you're in love, everything is more beautiful. And you have to look, and I had to look at the relationships and what it meant in the sense of community, what it meant in the sense of my relationship to God, what it meant in that person's relationship to God. And so I found with that experience life for me was more beautiful, and God was more beautiful. I just think from there, it's kind of a discernment, and God became somebody that I was closer to, or he was closer to me. And my love for God grew stronger that way. But I mean, that is a challenge that comes up, and nobody's exempt from falling in love even later on. There's people that you're attracted to, and so commitment to God is something that happens all the time. It's not just a one-time saying yes. It's a continual discerning process.
I was thinking, I had several crushes, like in high school, and participated in the dance and the prom and all that, but they were all short-lived. I mean, I thought I was in love, this will be it forever kind of thing, but, and I entered right after high school, so, but I would agree with Paulette that even though you've chosen this way of life, you're going to meet people that you're attracted to. It's your decision of how you go in that relationship. Just like in marriage, I think there's times when the partners can meet somebody they might be a little bit more attracted to at a time, but they have to reevaluate and make choices. And I think being human, being women, we have to do the same thing. So, yes, I think I've been made choices.
You know, with that, it's like somebody was saying, just really love is a choice. I think you were talking about an infatuation, that type of thing, but they were saying love is a choice, and we're called to love, but love's not automatic, and so it's a choice you have to make every day, and I think that's in a relationship too with people, and with the people that we live with. It's a relationship there. It's a relationship with God too. It's a choice that we either make or we don't, you know.
And last final question is, were your family and friends supportive of when you guys decided to become a sister?
My father and my mother were kind of questioning, sure this is really what you want? My father, after a while, my father always said that he went to a military school and he knew these sisters are very stern and very strict and stuff. And he thought that if I became a sister, my personality would change. That I would become very stern and stuff, and he didn't want to see that to happen. But I said, Dad, there's no way my personality is going to change. My mother at first was a little kind of reluctant to it. I don't know why, because she had several other children that could give her grandchildren. So, but I think they really weren't quite sure if I was doing this for the right reasons or not. Also, because they didn't really understand religious life. They understood marriage life, not religious life. So they didn't say no, but they didn't say, sure, go for it. So they were a little hesitant. I think as they saw that I was happy, and they saw that my personality did not change, that I still got in trouble, that basically I think that they saw that I was happy, then they grew to be okay with it.
Well, we didn't really ever talk about religious life. So I was kind of nervous to tell my parents that I think I'm going to enter, because our high school had a weekend up here at the convent. And that's kind of when I made my decision. And so they were supportive. There wasn't a lot spoken about it, but I think they knew underneath that I was very comfortable with the sisters. So they supported me. They'd come up from San Diego, and they would come and visit every weekend. Not every week. Once a month we have a visiting Sunday, and they would come up and they would be able to visit for 3 hours, and then they would go back. They were proud that I was here. I don't think they understood everything, but it was my choice. But they were always very supportive. They said, if you're happy there, fine. If you want to leave, that we accept that too. So And they were good supporters of the church. They were strong in their faith. So that made a difference too, understanding the Catholic, the faith. So that helped.
Well, my mother was not totally against it, but she wanted me to wait 6 months. And so that I know it was my decision and not an influence, which I was. That's how God draws you, I think. And I think we were 6 in the same high school that entered. So she wanted me to wait and let those 5 go. And I was reluctant to do that because we didn't have come and see weekends like we do now. And, you know, it was all mystery. And I didn't want to go into the unknown realm myself. So we had a little bit of conflict, but she didn't say no. And I went. My father, he was very quiet, and I really didn't. My mother kind of was the strong person in the relationship, but I didn't really know how he felt until the day they brought me here and left, and he started crying, and I never saw him cry. So, but they came every visiting Sunday, and again, they see you're happy, they see you're growing, you're being educated, and all these good things. But I didn't find out until just recently. I have an older brother, 2 years old, and he's gone, he died too, but his wife said to me, you know, Charlene, Lee swore he was going to get you out of that contest. He never wanted you to be there. Well, he never said anything. We kind of were like this, but anyway, I thought it was interesting. That's the first time I heard that.
So we're going to have a high five for vocation now.
All right.
Yay!